Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone, wherever you are in the world. My name is Eugene Turk, and I'm the Vice President of Business Development at Align. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to our monthly coach webinar for August 2020. As always, I hope everyone is doing well and staying healthy. This morning, we are thrilled to have Coach Rich Scott with us with a presentation on Sales Reinvigorated, extending your strategic plan to the customer journey. For those of you who are not familiar with Rich, he is a sales, marketing, and business growth expert with more than 20 years of business experience. For the past 12 years, Rich has been an award-winning Focal Point certified business coach based out of Vancouver, Canada, and an international trainer who has inspired his clients to define and achieve their greatest visions of professional success. He is an accomplished entrepreneur himself and an engaging public speaker with a passion for growing leaders and organizations in highly competitive markets. And like I said, we are thrilled to have him join us this morning. Before we begin, as always, one administrative note. We, of course, want this to be as educational and informational for you as possible. Please feel free to pose questions to Rich using the chat feature, and we will direct those questions to Rich at the conclusion of his presentation. So the presentation will go uninterrupted, and we can pose those questions at the end. Again, thank you all for attending this Align Coach webinar, and I will now turn the microphone over to Rich.
Perfect. Welcome, everybody. Excited. Thanks, Eugene, for having me. Thanks, Henry, for helping host with the chat box. This is going to be interactive. Okay, so you guys are going to actually be involved. So be by the chat box as we kind of go along. Like Eugene said, sales reinvigoration. So very infrequently does anybody want more, not want more sales. So we're going to talk about that today. And just first tip to get the most out of today is just what I know is the chances are you're busy. And so for the next 30 to 40 minutes, just be selfish. You're allowed. Just focus in on what we're going to cover today. Turn off distractions, close the door. Those things will be there in 30, 40 minutes. Grab a piece of paper if you need it, some writing utensil to make some notes, and just focus in. If you've showed up today, that there's obviously some interest in reinvigorating or growing your sales. So just be selfish. Look for that nugget for yourself. And to answer the question, yep, it is being recorded. This is the reminder to make sure that, yeah, we've got the recording running. We'll make it available shortly. I know that Henry and Eugene will get that for you. As well, a copy of my slides and the worksheet we're going to have today will be available near the end. And so also in case you start working on this and you get stuck afterwards, please don't stay stuck. Email me, call me. I really do want to see people grow, especially in the way things are going right now. And it's times, it's very unique, a little bit different than a lot of situations that were probably expected this time last year. So yeah, don't hesitate. If you get stuck, reach out to somebody. Don't just remain there. Myself, I've been a strategic sales and business growth coach for more than 12 years, been in business pretty much my whole life, going back to elementary school and having little side businesses. But for reference, just being a growth and sales coach for more than 12 years, that was 2008. So think of that, that's the financial crisis. To give it reference, LinkedIn started in 2003, but didn't go public till 2011. So it's been a while. So why do I say that is, well, I believe that small, medium-sized business is the core of every healthy economy. And I believe that the owners with even slightly better information and tools can have drastically better results. And with those results, they can lead totally different lives. So the little things do matter. That's why I do what I do. Okay. So as we start today, I'm just going to ask you for some permission. So this is going to be your first interaction in the chat box. is that I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to be authentic. I might drop in the Canadian accent there, and I think it's Derek will have a good chuckle out of this, but that's just who I am. I'm going to share some things that you probably have heard before, but maybe you've heard them in a different way. But I'm just asking you to be open that, hey, there might be a new idea and a nugget that you can take. I'm going to be myself. I'm just asking you to be myself. And I'm just going to ask you in the chat box, is that all right? I'm going to talk fast. You're going to have to listen fast. So just in the chat box, just give me an okay or a thumbs up that's cool. Excellent. Perfect. Love that. Thanks, Alyssa. Excellent. Love it. Thanks, Robert. Excellent. All right. Well, the first thing is I'm just going to check in and find out why you're here today. So I know you want to get out of maybe a couple tips for reinvigoration of your sales or your business development. Just in the chat box, let me know, what is it you're looking for today? When it comes to sales or new business development, what are you looking for today? What are you hoping to get out of today's session? What's the toughest part for you right now? What part has got you stuck on the business development side of your business? What are you looking for? Let me just check the temperature and find out where it's at. Ways to identify new distribution channels. Great. Just new ideas. Fantastic. How to adjust. Excellent. Just in the chat box, give me new ways to engage. What type of salesperson, vertical or otherwise, do we need to? These are excellent, guys. Thank you. Keeping the team motivated, encouraged while things are slow and harder for pre-COVID and new ideas for lead generation. Love that, Elise. Michael's got, what should be the priority to convert a prospect into an order efficiently? Love that. Starting a completely new in sales marketing department. So looking for ideas, best ways. Okay, we'll kind of touch on that. Redefining the message or refining the message. Vikram's got command messaging. Ways to engage. Excellent. So we're going to touch on some of these. Some of these are going to be a little bit too in-depth for today, but that's okay. I love just finding out where everyone's coming to, how to close deals successfully. Okay, excellent. Perfect. So let me just give you some context in my disclaimer, if you will. Okay, there's 5 things that I'm going to kind of make as assumptions for the people that are on the line. Number one, you've got an established business of some sort. Okay, it's not just an idea, but you've actually got it sort of established. Number 2 is that things are different. I'll say changes have occurred in the last 6 to 12 months. Number 3, I'm assuming you want to grow. Number 4, you realize that growth starts with a decision. It just doesn't happen by accident. And number 5, change, aka action, is required. So I'm just going to go through those again. Number 1, yeah, you've got an established business. There's something that's already been set up. You're not doing a startup. Number 2, things have recently been different. Change has occurred. Number 3, you want to grow. Okay. Number 4, you realize that it starts with a decision. And number 5, change, aka action, is required. Okay. Now, the interesting part is those 5 things in my presentation haven't changed over 10 years. Okay. The situation, the circumstances have changed, but those are the context and the disclaimers. Nothing I'm going to cover is going to work if you're not aware of those 5 things. Okay. So here's the cool part. Well, let me just check in. You still good? Is that all good? Those 5 things still fit? Yes, I've got good. Yep. Excellent. Okay. I can provide some strategies, some tips, but those are sort of your responsibility. Okay. So when we look at business development, here's what I see as kind of the problem or the challenge, if you will, if you want to word it a different way. Regardless of your industry, regardless of kind of how you do what you do, this is kind of what I know. Number 1 is oftentimes businesses are so focused on just growing their revenues that they'll typically accept anybody. They'll stare at the phone, they'll stare at their email, and they'll hope it rings. And that generally leads to taking on clients or prospects or customers, however you describe your new business people, is that you guess what they want and what they value. And it's usually around the product or service that we offer. But we kind of guess what they want, or we assume it, okay? And you can break down the word. We all know that joke. Number three, because of that, we end up often just pushing the sale, that we get this customer here and we get so excited that we just want to kind of push the sale along. And I don't know about you, but that often leads to that feeling a little bit of awkward, that we might be seen as kind of the pushy salesperson, okay? And it totally doesn't have to be that way. It might feel awkward, and it just doesn't need to be that way. The opportunity is, regardless of what the economy is doing or the situation is, that when we run our business strategically, is that number one, we can assess the fit. We can ask questions and to determine in advance and with the customer if this is going to be a fit. Number two is we can actually ask them questions much like a restaurant and know what they want and value. So think of just that analogy for a second. If somebody walked into a restaurant and nobody gave them a menu, and it's not some regular where we know what they want, we just come up and we just give them some food. Restaurants don't work that way, okay? Even in weird times, is that they give us a menu, they ask us, and then we take their order. And our sales process can work that way. It can be very strategic. Number three is we can just invite them to the next step. So instead of pushing them through the sale, we can invite them to the next step because we know, based on their actions and the answers they've given us, that they're ready to go to the next step. And the cool part with that is that we stay authentic and we stay professional. We're not pushing. We can just be ourselves and we can be authentic, and we don't have to ever lose the relationship just to make a sale. We can keep it. So if there's one big thing that I want you to take away from today, Michael's asked share contact details. Absolutely, you bet. I'll have that at the end, Michael. The big idea I want you to kind of get your mind around first as we go through today is just think of a flight plan. Think of a plane. And I know many of us are not flying a whole lot today, but think of a pilot setting the plan for a flight. No flight would leave without a plan, a destination and a starting point. I imagine everyone here today understands this. When we think of the Align software, that's the power of it, is that we put a lot of thought into creating our plan. We all see the value of a plan for our business. How we create the plan, share the plan, work on the plan, that may vary, but we all understand the value of having a plan. So the big idea for today is our revenue generation, the business side, the sales side of our business, the marketing, sales, the delivery of our service, it can be that strategic. Our interactions with our customers can be this strategic. We can design a plan to identify where we want the customer journey to go. Our interactions with our customers can be that strategic. In all the plans, there's a point B, if you will, where we want to go, and a point A, where we are or where we start from. And both are important. So if either of those points changes, we just need to adjust our plan. So think of it like a graphic, and you can see my art ability here, but point B is where we want to go. Okay, point A is where we're currently at. And when we know both of those, then we can set a strategy and work on the daily, weekly, monthly tactics as we go along. And why I like this analogy with a plane is because flying, as soon as that plane takes off, it's all about the adjustments. We might set a direction, that's our strategy. And then that plane is adjusting. 98% of the time that it's flying, it's quote unquote off course and it's adjusting. So when COVID hits, point B might be the same, but point A has definitely changed. Where we're at and what we did yesterday has totally changed. And so we need to adjust. So that's the sort of first big decision is, like I said, the prerequisite, the context is things are going to change. Things have likely already changed in a pretty dramatic manner for the business, for your customers, for your staff, for your team, things have changed. So now we need to adjust. And so when we're extending that strategic plan and we have that for the business, now we look at it just from our sales and from the journey of our customer. So I've kind of talked about this strategy from the business side, from our selfish side, but I want us to start thinking about it as the journey of our customer. Okay, so if the customer starts at point A, when we just sort of identify or choose who that prospect might be, their journey to becoming a great customer, or what I'm going to refer to as a champion, point B, is also a journey. And so I want us to take the same knowledge and the same perspective that we have in creating a strategic plan for our business and just extend it to the customer journey. Now, that's often a new idea when I'm working with clients is they would normally say to me, Rich, well, I just want to get a customer, make a sale, hopefully make a good impression, get referrals, maybe get some repeat business, and then just get more customers. And so we're going to talk about that. So I just want you to think of that big idea that that customer can go on a strategic journey. And then the tactics we take along the way with them can be very intentional. They can be very strategic, and they can have a purpose to get that customer to point B, which is not just the first sale, but beyond the first sale. So I'm just going to pause there and ask you, based on what we've covered so far, what's been the most helpful for you personally, selfishly? Give me some feedback. Is this resonating? Is this making sense for you? Just in the chat box, let me know what's been most helpful for you so far. And as I know, there's always a little bit of a lag. I'll take a little sip. Robert's got customer journey, the importance of that with your strategy. Yeah, love that, Robert. If we think we've experienced it, it's been huge. Yeah, Alyssa's got this resonates in changing perspective and being more intentional. Yeah, Shannon's got staying positive with clients. Jeffrey's got like point A is change for the customer. That's a big one for people I work with. Yeah, absolutely. Good to have you on the line too, Jeff. 2 theories so far. Excellent. Manos, I love that. You're just like me. Okay, so you're getting the theory though. Now we're going to talk about how to do it. Fantastic. Importance of having a plan, whether it be for your company or your customer. Okay, so let's jump in. I've broken this down into 3 key principles, and my disclaimer is it's just 3. There is more than 3, but I'm going to share as much as I can in the time we have together, and then I will make more available for you at the end if it resonates with you. Okay, so let's start very simple. Okay, great part is growth always starts with some basic math. Okay, so I love kissing it. Just keep it simple. So you grow revenue. You grow revenue 3 different ways. Okay, so connect with more people and better people, and then do each of those steps better. Okay, so what does that mean? If we're going to talk to more people and we're going to talk to better people, and I'm going to get better, or our team's going to get better, we're going to talk to more and better clients equals more business. Regardless, yeah, we can hear you. Perfect. So I got you. Yeah, if we're trying to get more, if everything else stays equal, if things change and we want to get more business, I always want teams to recognize leadership, frontline people, sales teams, that you don't have to get super complicated. It's easy to try and get really technical or really fancy, but ultimately there is no other way than these 3. Is we're looking to connect, communicate, and serve more people. In addition to that, we're looking to communicate, connect, converse, serve better people. Now, what do I mean by better people is people that we are as an organization, whether it's your company, your division, the product, which we all kind of know who are better clients and ones that are worse. And it's not judgmental, is we're just a better fit with some people than others. Typically, as a business grows, you might start with a simple client and then you'll start to hone it in and refine a better fitting client that just makes more sense to serve. So if you are a commercial landscaping business, you may have started off as a residential landscaping business and then realize, hey, you know what? We've got better skills, better tools, better services that fit a larger customer in commercial. And not that larger is better, it's just a better fit. Or maybe you started off as commercial and now you realize, hey, we're a better fit for residential. Doesn't really matter, but there's a better fit. And then finding them, connecting with them, and serving them better increases the number of leads. So I'm just going to pause there. I want you to think through a couple questions as we go through this, okay? So how do we identify better customers? We're going to touch on this in our third point as well, but who is a better customer? Who is our best customer right now? This is plain and simple, keeping it simple on purpose, okay? I don't want to waste a bunch of time and energy talking about tactics until you get really clear on just the basic math. Who are our best customers? Why are they our best customers? Right? Why do they buy from us? How can I shorten the sales cycle with them? How can I increase the sale amount each time with them? How can I increase the frequency of repeat sales or referrals from that customer? Okay, so these are just a handful of the key questions before you jump on and start launching a big, expensive marketing or advertising campaign. Just get really clear on how do we find better customers? Who are they? And how do we connect more with those customers and more customers? And by the way, in marketing alone, there's only 3 ways in marketing as well. There's organic. So this is an extra if you want to make a note on this. There's organic, which is just sort of existing. It's usually not a very active one, but longer you're in business, the more customers have the organic, you can have a better sign. So organic. Number 2 is paid advertising or marketing. And then number 3 is partnerships or alliances or joint ventures, which is just partnering up with people that serve a similar audience and helping each other or collaborating. So organic, paid, and partnerships. And those can be online and offline. So if you want to be technical, you could have 6 of those, but really it's organic, paid, partnerships. Okay. So I'm just going to pause there with just our basic math. What'd you learn? What'd you notice? What questions do you have? Just on the very simple one, basics of finding more people and better people and doing it better. What'd you learn? What'd you notice? What questions do you have on that? And it's usually when I get a question is, well, how do I do more of that? Well, first of all, just to identify who your top clients are. I guess you could go to the other end of the spectrum, who your worst clients are, so you can spend more time with your top and less time with your worst. And how do we connect with them? Yeah, the ones who need what I deliver are my top customers. Better people is so key. We do fire customers if they do not fit. Yeah, that's awesome, Robert. Absolutely. You can free them to go find a better place. And a lot of the times, clients that I work with might find that awkward or uncomfortable. And as soon as you make the decision, then you can make the second decision, which is how do we do that? And often it's easy to find somebody that they're a better fit with and refer them off. But just you do have to let them go first to spend more times with the ideal clients that you want to spend and you want to attract and design your business towards to serve better, because you'll attract more of them. One of the easy ways to think of that is, if my best customers knew that I served my worst customers, would I be embarrassed? And the answer is often yes. Do you build a core customer persona to help you find people better and faster? Yeah, absolutely. Derek, that's a great one. Absolutely. All right, let's go to key number 2. Chess comes in. Number 2 key point is think strategically. So if we extend the idea of a sales process and not necessarily a funnel, and I'm going to expand on that, we can start to understand the steps. So when we're thinking strategically, we're all pretty familiar thinking through strategically for a strategic business plan. So let's just kind of, in a very general sense, touch on that. Number 1 is we're going to start with our values. You know, think of these as the owner leader. Okay, we start really high level, the most important, and we work down into the stages that help execute them, bring them to life. Okay, so our values, or AKA our strengths, my strengths, your strengths. Number 2, our vision, which is my ideal. What do I ideally want things to look like? Okay, number 3, the mission. Which is my what. What is it that we do? What do we want to be the best at? What's our mission? We want to put a computer in every house or on every desktop. Fantastic. Okay. Purpose, which is what I describe as my why. Why do I do what I do? We break that down into my goals, which is typically I look at my goals is to keep them focused in this year. So I'll have some bigger goals that'll be past that, but that tends to be more towards my vision or purpose, depending on how you define that. I'll break down my goals. And if I'm going to achieve something new, then I probably need to know something or develop a skill that's different, either for myself or my team or my business. And that's just a key note to the side. If you're setting a goal that's just an extension of what you've done already, then the chances are you're setting yourself up for a little frustration or not enough of a stretch. A bigger goal generally requires that kind of a gap where you haven't done it before. It's a new goal, it's a bigger goal. And so just realize that learning always precedes growth. Okay, learning always precedes growth. So always be learning, always be trying new things. But be intentional about it. So what knowledge and skill do I have to acquire, develop, master, even a little bit to close that gap? Number 7 is, okay, well, if I want to take that knowledge and turn it into a skill, I've got to do it and make it a habit, which defines my character. And to do that, I've got to do something daily. So when you think through, especially with the Align software, this is creating the plan and then breaking it down into our quarters, our month, our daily huddles, and it's the execution. So if we just set a big plan and never worked on it daily, we never talked about it with the team, we never identified new skills that had to be there, new measurements to check our progress, it wouldn't happen. And so why do we do all this work? Why do we do all this work? Well, because we know it works. And know why does it work? Because of 3 things. Number 1 is it provides us clarity. And I would say 80% of accomplishing goals, of success, starts with clarity. Okay? It starts with clarity. Just think of it. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. You don't jump in the plane, take off, and decide where you want to go. It starts with clarity. Number 2 is because with an organization, it's not just one person, it's a bunch of people, we need to be able to communicate it. So when we have a plan, we're able to communicate it. And then number 3, we're able to collaborate it. So all of those components on a business plan apply to a strategic plan with selling, okay? So let's think of it this way. Let's get real simple. Peter Drucker said that the real purpose of a business is to get and keep customers. Okay, so we get customers. That's when we start with a customer, and then we need to keep the customer. Keeping that customer, and then what do we do with them? Point B. It's not just about us and our strategic plan from gathering all of these customers. What does the customer journey go to? Where do we start, and ultimately where can it go to? So I want to introduce an idea of a sales staircase. So just use it as a model. Okay. The customer prospect, the customer goes on a journey. They go from A to B. And to understand and design a strategic process or a strategic journey for them, let's look at the whole customer process. Because if we understand the process, much like a staircase, then we can start to break it down and understand the purposes, because each step is kind of a stage and each step kind of has a purpose that matches, here's the key part, how humans like to act when making a decision, like buying or changing. So if I'm going to do something new, I'm going to make a decision. Human behavior, human psychology kind of follows steps. And so when we understand that, then we can design each step to start and build and customize our sales process to help the customer do each one of those steps. So it's not just about being a good talker. We can intentionally build actions to serve the customer, and we can do it really well at each step that they're at. Instead of pushing them through, we can serve them at the step they're at and have them raise their hand in a sort of a figurative manner to go to the next step. Okay, so let's kind of look at this. Old traditional sales would break this down this way. You got to prospect, you got to present, and then you got to follow up. And it's kind of true. You wouldn't follow up before you've ever made a connection. So there's logical order there, okay? So what's going on? If I extend that a little bit further into behavioral psychology, not to freak everyone out, because I do want to keep it simple for today, is the number one reason, the number one gap businesses have, why people don't buy more from them still, always, for the length of history of mankind, is they're not even aware we exist. Everything else is a huge second to that one point. The reason I don't have more customers is more people don't know I exist. Plain and simple. So as always, pandemic, no pandemic, I can always go back and go, oh, I want more customers. I need to make more people aware that I exist. Great. Once they understand that I exist, then they need to understand what I do and how it could possibly help them. Not that I'm all great or sexy or my product's the next best mousetrap, is I need them to understand what it is. A great example is when Apple launched the iPad, people looked at it and it just kind of looked like a big iPhone. They didn't really understand how it worked. So it would be crazy for them to try and close the sale if the prospect or the customer didn't even understand it. Their role at that point isn't about closing a sale. It's about helping that prospect understand what the product does, okay? Then they need to make it personal. Oh, okay, I kind of understand it's like a computer without a keyboard, but I don't know how I'd use it. I don't know how it would work for me. So then the next stage is making it personal for them, which is they go in and they demonstrate applications. And one of those apps applies to a need or something that's going on, that they go, oh, now I can start to understand how I could personally use that. And then and only then, I can start to make a plan. Think about that. Then and only then do I care what color it comes in, how much it costs, where do I get it, does it break? All these things that start to go into my plan, and then I can act. And then ultimately, Apple wants them to not just buy one, but to become a fan of it and tell other people of it. So when we look at that, that I would propose is probably what our general goals are, but we haven't broken it down and been strategic and been able to clarify it, communicate it, and get the rest of our team to collaborate with it, okay? So when I break those down even further into real simple steps, because there's some things going on in each one, here's the model or the staircase that I kind of refer to. Okay, so number one is we're going to choose. And this goes on going. It's not just one and done, but we're going to choose who a great client is. Number two is we're going to, the next step would be connect with them. That doesn't mean just get married with them. It's just to connect with them, find out who they are so that they actually know we exist. And then we're going to have a conversation. Our marketing is going to converse with them. And up to that point, it just has one goal, make them aware of us and understand who we are. Okay. That would be just the first process of prospecting. Next, we're going to confirm that what they think we do, we actually do. I don't know if you've ever had this where a customer thinks you can solve every problem in the world, and you're like, whoa, time out. No, that's not what we do. We only do this. So you want to confirm it. Don't just assume they know what I do. And that goes for existing clients as well. Then we're going to clarify what it is that they truly want and why, the big why behind it. And then we're going to create some options. And it's going to be collaboratively. We're not just going to push it on them because that's us pushing. And as soon as we push and they resist, is we want to collaborate with them and create some options. And then ultimately, if it's a good fit, commence. We want to get started, and we want to be intentional about how we start. We don't just hope that it goes well. How do we get repeat business and referrals? It starts really right at the beginning on how we commence, okay? Then we want to continue. We want them to stay with us, to buy from us. So what can we do to design that step of the sales staircase? And then number 9, a concept that I describe as a champion, that big fan, somebody that buys all our stuff, all our good stuff, but also gives us referrals, maybe even does joint venture activities with us. Every business is going to be a little bit different, but what does the champion look like? Because this is what I know. They don't happen by accident, or they happen so infrequently, you can call them unicorns. But if you know what point B is, what you want your best customers to look like, what they buy, how they act, what they do to promote and refer, then all the way through the sales process, I can design that to increase the likelihood that that's going to happen. So just like a strategic plan typically has a 5-year plan, and all of these sort of milestones are happening along the way, I would recommend and suggest to us that we create a professional sales process to nurture our customer journey all the way along so that they actually arrive as a champion. Okay. And all of those steps along the way, I can design into the business to improve the conversion rate and the likelihood and the experience that the customer has all the way through. So to put it another way, we're going to attract it. This is your marketing side. We're going to convert. There's going to be some areas in there which people would normally call the sales process. And then we're going to retain them. Okay. And that would be the delivery. So at the end of this, if you want to email me, I've got a kind of an example worksheet in the background, and then a blank one that you can use yourself to work through just different ideas on these. And this is the cool part. You don't have to be perfect on these. Just being strategic greatly increases the production. You know, the thing is that the example I often use is I drive fairly well, but when I'm driving with a police officer behind me, I drive much better. So the things that get monitored improve. So I'm just going to pause there. What'd you learn? What'd you notice about the ideal of a sales staircase? And I'm going to leave this one up here just to kind of jog your memory, but we talked about being strategic and then applying that to our customer journey. Thanks, Jeff. What do we do? What'd you learn? What'd you notice? What part of that was valuable for you? Don't worry about everything. What's the 1 or 2 big nuggets that you got? Just going to pause that, get you to kind of summarize those thoughts. I want to just keep an eye on the time. Got about 5 more minutes on our final one. What'd you learn? What'd you notice? Yeah, realizing that each step can be broken down. Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. I don't really know who my champion is. That's okay. That's good. Focusing more than just the sale up front. Yeah, like that, Liz. The customer journey, like the 9 C's. Yep. That did happen during a drive. It wasn't on purpose in the beginning, Robert, but when I got to about 5 C's, I realized, well, we might as well just go with it. Perfect. Okay. Third key. So the first one is basic math, keeping it simple. Okay. Just increasing our numbers. Number two is being strategic, that we can design a process. And the third one is the alpha and the omega, or the beginning and the end. And what I mean by that is that if I want a champion, if I know who my champion is, and it doesn't have to be for all time, it can just be for right now. And I highly recommend this is when I shoot pool, and I'm not very good at it, but what I understand is that I ultimately want to finish the game by sinking the 8-ball. Okay. And so as I'm sinking each ball, I'm thinking about what my target is, but also what the next step's going to be after that, so that the cue ball is set up for the next shot. Okay. And this applies exactly with that sales strategy. Okay. So number one, so let's start with B. What does B look like for you? Okay. Just quickly, I'm going to give you 30 seconds on a piece of paper. Who is your best customer right now? Just write it down. What's their name? Don't think theoretical. Right now, currently, who's your best customer and why? Why are they your best customer? There's no right or wrong answer here, but I'm going to push you to define it. And then after this call, I want you to go talk with your leadership team and go, hey, is this actually our best customer and why? Should this be our best customer? Who else is like this best customer? Okay, that's what we're going to try and do, is we're going to try and get more of those. Okay, then we're going to go all the way back and go, okay, if that's our strong champion, okay, why is it? Is it the volume? Is it the margin? Is it the referrals? Is it the partnerships? That's fine. It doesn't matter what it is, but it needs to be really, really key, so that you and the whole organization understands why we call that a champion. These are the boxes they check off, that's our best customers. Okay. And then realize that you can grow champions. Okay. So that goes to point A. What is the seeds that we need to be looking for and planting to grow? What should they start as? Just as important, what should they not be? Okay. Yeah, those customers are never going to become champions. I mean, we might make a sale, but make no qualms about it. They're not going to be a champion. Okay. So how do we do less of that? How do we actually repel those people, because they're wasting time, money, and energy and keeping us from developing more champions? How can we connect with them? You know, if they're fish, where do they swim? You know, if your goal is to have tuna, I paid for university commercial fishing for salmon on the west coast of British Columbia. And so this kind of pertains to me. If you're trying to fish for tuna, they're not in lakes. You can have the best gear, best intentions, get up super early, work harder than everyone else, has the best gear and equipment and bait. They're not in lakes. And so you might get frustrated and you might beat up your sales team. Hey, how come we haven't got any tuna? You're fishing in the wrong spot. And I know that seems kind of theoretical, but it's easily applicable right away. If you don't know who your champions are, my guess is your sales team don't know who your champions are. My guess is your production team are not designing the process, the products, the services that you do for your top customers. Other people take them, but it all starts with, hey, where do they even start? What are we looking for? So how do we connect with them? And then probably the most important part is, what do they care about? What do they really care about? And here's the big hint. It's not my products or services. It's not me. Okay, if I can extend that and use an analogy that's used so many times, what do they really care about? It's not the bit. But I'll give you the secret. It's not even the whole. You know, oftentimes salespeople are trained that, like, hey, people don't buy a bit, they buy the whole. Well, I'll push it one step further. They don't even buy the whole. They buy a reason for the whole. They buy the impact. So if I buy a drill bit because I want to create a hole in my wall so that I can hang a painting, I actually don't even want the hole. I want the painting. This painting behind me, there was no holes drilled. Someone came up with a great idea that, hey, Rich doesn't even want a hole in his wall. He wants some way to mount something on his wall and not leave a hole. And so 3M came up with some really cool strips with Velcro that you can put to the frame and to the wall and move them away. And if you ever change your mind, pull those strips away and not take the paint off. And why I use that analogy is because our customers are no different. Our best customers are no different. It's not about the feature benefit. It's actually the benefit of the benefit. It's that I can have a painting in here and look professional and be able to reference it that, hey, here's my hometown. And when I'm on a webcast like this, that I look professional. That's the impact. So when we're trying to connect with them and trying to design our products around them, it's the benefit of the benefit. It's the impact. So start having conversations about these things. Start serving them on those things because they'll have conversations about those things all day long. Okay, so really understand who the champion is and who they're looking for, not who they're looking for, what circumstances they're experiencing right now. And those are the entry points where we can start having conversations about our product and services and be open for and flexible for improving our products and services based on what they really care about. Okay, so little quick recap. Reinvigorating our sales. It's super simple. Don't go spending a bunch of time, money, and energy before we even realize that it's just basic math, that we're looking for better customers and more customers and do it in a better way. Think strategically. Start just like with the strategic plan from point A to point B all the way through, and then get really, really focused on what we want the end result to look like and what they look like when they start so that we can design our process all the way through. So I'm gonna, we went up, I want to go down. What's your takeaways? Covered a ton of stuff in the 50 minutes that we just talked about. I think 40 minutes of myself. What's your insights? What's the biggest thing that you're gonna take away? And then what action are you gonna take based on today's information? Just in the chat box, let me know. Love that. Terena, HealthWorks. Kathy's got identify who the best customers are. Love that. Action, sales training for the team about customer journey. I love that, Alyssa. Robert's got knowing your own strengths and how they fit into the champion and how do we use this to gain more customers. Love that. Yeah. You don't have to hide around your strengths. Prepare a better staircase. Yeah, and it can just be a blank piece of paper from A to B. Perfect. As you guys are doing that, I'm going to kind of give you a game plan. I'm going to give you 3 things to do. So if you're stuck and you're not sure what to do next, number 1, just make the decision. Like growth starts with the decision. Okay, so to decide to grow, then work on the how. The how separate from the decision. Number 2, wherever possible, keep it simple. This doesn't have to be complicated. The big wins happen from keeping it simple. So see better customers, see more than, identify your best and current and prospective customers, connect with them and start to converse with them. What are we going to talk about? Well, what is the benefit of the benefit they're looking for? What are their circumstances? So make a decision, keep it simple. Number 3, map your journey. Okay, just start with a blank piece of paper. What's our ideal? And then how do we break it down on that sales staircase? Decide what the destination is and then refine each step. Know that, hey man, we're missing a big step. If somebody stalls, then we're not serving them well enough at the step they're at that they raise their hand that they want to go to the next one. Okay, I'll pass back to Eugene. If you have any questions, if you want a copy of the worksheet, just shoot me an email, rscott@focalpointcoaching.com. And I'll just open up for any and all questions, whether it's stuff I've covered or anything else.
Thank you, Rich. I think I'm going to ask Henry to launch a poll. We're going to try this just to give us some feedback on what you thought of today's presentation. So I'll let Henry do that. In the meantime, if you do have some questions, we just have a few minutes left before the top of the hour. Please feel free to put that question in the chat box and let us know if there's some additional information that Rich can provide to you about any of the topics that he covered during this webinar.
It still feels like this morning, but I
I was going to say,
realize that there's people all over the
that's right.
place.
I consciously catch myself.
Yeah, that's good.
Rich, I've got a first question about discounting and the strategy of discounting to help move along the sales process. And do you feel like that can undermine some of the promises around value proposition that you've made to clients? And how do you balance that?
Yeah, so discounting generally happens. So I'm not against it, so long as it doesn't hurt the brand. Okay, so discounting, just to understand that the cause of that normally happens when we've gotten into the features and benefits. And so now that we're competing with some other option, the customer doesn't necessarily know how to buy it. And so they're just comparing it to another option, and it's feature and benefits, and price is one of the things that it's easy for them to ask to improve the opportunity. So before that, just understanding what's the impact. So discounting happens less to close the sale if we understand the real value in the impact. So in that sales process, we want to first confirm what it is they want. And that, yes, we actually do it. And then you'll see the next one is that clarify, which is doing a little bit of discovery, if you will, of finding out what's the impact of getting this. So there's 4 reasons why, 4 green lights that they have to get. I can get into another one, but ultimately, if they're going to purchase something that has a low impact, then I'll be the first one to question, why would you invest, $5,000 when the impact of this seems to be only $100? And so that whole role gets flipped around, and they go, well, actually, no, it's more than $5,000. It'd be X, Y, and Z. So discounting usually comes up on that feature benefits, and the customer and or the salesperson have not made it clear on what the value of the sale is. You get far less discounting when I can have a statement, something, well, based on what you told me, you wanted to do this by when, because you feel it has an impact of roughly $150,000. And so when we're looking at a solution for $10,000, that's a great investment. And so it comes up less. And then they go, well, I'm looking for a better price. Well, we can always do a better price if you're willing to take that risk.
I think this is probably this could take up another webinar, but how has the customer discovery changed during COVID, especially with no live speaking, Zoom calls? People are getting a bit fatigued especially of trying to be sold on these platforms. So how have you changed that thinking during COVID?
Yeah, I think it starts with the client. So first of all, if you go right back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? We're looking for safety. So to think that customers are going to set the same priorities and the same importance as they used to is crazy. It's just not. I even know for myself, I'm a pretty optimistic guy. I started fixing up my house, right? Because I'm staying home and it's more important versus doing sort of bigger things. So I think just realizing that people make decisions. And that's why I think the sales staircase and designing how we interact with people is so powerful, is because it's just taking into account that real people are making decisions. So I think the question you asked there, Henry, is how's COVID affected the way I interact with people? Is that a pretty good summation?
Yeah, and how has it changed finding new customers?
Yeah, finding new customers. Well, I use the opportunity to connect and then have conversations about what they care about. So that's not selling. It's just starting the conversations about the things that they care about and the things that are going on currently for them right now. And so COVID and the things around that are real. So I can start the conversations around that. In a normal summer, I might be talking about where they're going on vacation. Well, we're not having that conversation right now. I just want to have a conversation so that we can start to build trust and I can start to extend and ask bigger questions. And then take that back and adjust our product and services to address those as best as possible. Hopefully that helps. Yeah? Does that make sense?
And then we have one final kind of more tactical question, but do you prefer verticals versus territory-based salespeople?
Okay, do I prefer it? And so it's going to be the classic lawyer answer. Well, it depends. And what I mean by that is it depends. Eugene laughs because you've got a law back, right? It's like, does this law apply? No, well, it depends. And so put the customer in the center. How's the customer best served? Balanced with the constraints that the business has. So ideally you'd have one salesperson for every customer. Well, that's not realistic. So what's the next best one? Well, do our customers are they best served by having a specialist in that vertical market that understands it? Great, then do it that way. Do we have constraints where geography and time zones are more important than the details or the uniqueness of the vertical? Then balance it that way. There's no perfect way, but just make your decisions and your evaluations based on the customer, because that's how they're ultimately the one that signs the check. That's the goal. So I've seen some verticals that'll have subject matter expert that's come in and out. But generally, verticals tend to outweigh geography, especially when we can access those people with technology now.
Great. We are at the top of the hour. Our time has run. I want to thank everyone for attending today's coach webinar, and obviously a big thank you to Rich for a really great presentation. You have all of Rich's contact there on the slide that's up. You can email him. Like I said, we will create a blog post that will summarize this webinar with a link to the recording and those worksheets that Rich referenced briefly in the presentation. Again, if any of you ever have any questions about how to use the Align software to create a strategic plan, whether it be for your company or for your sales team, always feel free to check us out at aligntoday.com. Again, thank you. We hope that you will join us for our next coach webinar in September. Till then, we hope that you have a great day, and please stay safe, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, George.